Hey everybody, Daniel Ramsey here with MyOutDesk. So today we have a different topic. Usually we're coming in and bringing like business ideas and kind of some tweaks and just teaching how to grow a business. But today we're actually talking about what would happen if disaster struck tomorrow. And so if you're listening to this, this is like one of those things. Are you ready if there was a flood, if there was a fire and everything in your office completely just like got eliminated? Like, what would you do? And the stats are kind of crazy in the sense that 40% of businesses who actually experience a disaster like fail 100%. And this is a blind spot. When Nora, who's on here, I'm going to introduce in a second, she's talking to me and I'm thinking, as a business owner, we've got thousands of employees and I'm not prepared. And I was like, oh my God, we have to have her on our video to help our people get ready. And I mean, the world's changing. We're in California. There's a huge fire that's just ravaging through. In less than 24 hours, 6,700 structures are gone, an entire town completely destroyed. And I can tell you right now, if you're in business right now and you don't have a disaster plan, and if you're not working with someone like Nora, this is like the webinar, Facebook Live thing for you. I can tell you, as a business owner, we never think about the what if something went wrong scenario. And so today we've got Nora here. She's got like, a lot of credentials. So I'm going to try to get them all right here. 16 years in emergency management, 9 years owning her own business. She has a master's degree in this. She has a certification. She's been on a ton of wildfires, a pandemic, Katrina, Sandy. She's SBA Businesswoman of the Year in Sacramento, so 2018, which is cool. And most importantly, she's a MyOutDesk client. So we'll hear a little bit about how she's using her virtual professional and what she's doing. But Nora, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. This is just it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And our goal is to not be the sky is falling, oh my God, what's going to happen kind of person, but just to say, you have to assess what your risks are. And once you assess those risks, then you can plan for those risks. And a lot of people don't take the time to schedule and identify what those risks are. So knowing what your risks are and then plan for them is how you can be better prepared for disaster.
And what's cool about Nora is she's like the real deal. Like, you were just volunteering over the weekend in the California fire that kind of destroyed an entire town. So like, you walked in there and took charge and taught them how to do stuff. So we're going to get into that and we're going to have some stories. But if you're listening today, I want to be clear about what you're going to get. First of all, we're going to teach you to think differently about your business and protect for major disaster. A good friend of mine had to evacuate East Coast. His wife, dog, there was flooding, and he and I were talking, and he's like, I wasn't prepared. We had to stay in a hotel. I had a dog. It was just no planning, right? And so if you have a business and you have employees and you have customers, which I'm guessing you're going to have customers and you're going to have employees, right? Then this is the webinar for you. We're going to teach you to think differently today with Nora. Another benefit of that is, and Nora brought this up and I was like, oh yeah, when you think about being prepared, your employees, it's going to make a better culture for your employees, because they're going to think, oh my gosh, the owner cares about me and has a plan in case there's a problem. So I think that's really important. So you're going to get, some cultural shifts in your business, and Nora will share with us how to do that. And the big thing is she's going to give away her 12-point assessment so that you're going to walk away from this, and we'll post the links here live. So you're going to walk away with something to take, a tool so you can implement after this conversation, and we'll go through the how-tos. But let's jump right in. You had a story about Hawaii, which I mean, in my mind, Hawaii is like this beautiful island, green beauty. What happened in Hawaii?
Well, what happened in Hawaii is that there was a hurricane this summer. And when there was a hurricane, what we've done is we we always have looked to history to say this is what the issues are. This is this is what could happen if we have this kind of this flooding and how it might impact communities. Well, the historical modeling, they looked at what kind of flooding they've had related to hurricanes in the past, and they estimated 18 to 20 inches of rain. Huge, tons of amount of rain, obviously. What they actually got was 47 inches of rain. And the reason is climate change. I'm not going to get into debate to you whether there is climate change or not. The point is, sea tides are rising. It's about climate change adaptation at this point. So that you can't look to, well, this has never happened here, so it's never happened before, so we don't have to worry about it. Even just last year with the wildfires in the Bay Area in Napa and Sonoma, wildfire wasn't even a huge threat for them. For them, it was earthquake. And right. In the end, so the point is that, and then obviously we know what kind of devastation that happened. So the point is, moving forward, it's real important to not just say, well, this will never happen, but by assessing what your risks are and having a discussion with you and your staff about what really could happen. Like, I had never considered. And it can be something very simple. Like, we had one client that we went through this process called a hazard vulnerability analysis. And until we had done that, we asked about their sewer, because that was one of the questions, your sewer, your IT system, et cetera. And they figured out that they had lost 6 days of work over the last 2 years because of their sewer. Now, okay, what does that relate to emergency management? Well, they fixed the sewer and they didn't have a future issue, which meant their business can continue. The whole point is minimizing those business interruptions. And a lot of people think it has to be from a presidential declared disaster. It doesn't. It could be a water main break in your own building and only affects your business. But that still means that you can't, continue unless you have a process in place and some contingencies for how to continue.
That's cool. And so if you're listening right now, I want to answer the question, why should you be on this call, right? So if you have employees, if you have client files, if you're in business, that's who should be here. Most business planners are like me. I'm always thinking, how can I grow my revenue? I'm not thinking about how do I protect my business. So this is a shift for most of us. And if you're here, just go ahead and say hello, say where you're from, and know that Nora is open to answering questions. I've never personally met somebody who's worked on a pandemic. So tell me that story. Tell us what happened with that.
That was pretty intense. So I worked at the time for the California Primary Care Association, representing the nonprofit community clinics, and spent a lot of time with the California Department of Public Health in pandemic planning meetings. We spent many what I call Debbie Downer meetings to talk about the modeling will show from the 1918 pandemic, since we have 40 million people roughly in California, that we're going to have all these deaths. Where are we going to put all these, where are we going to put all the dead bodies? We've had those kinds of conversations. And then H1N1 happened. What we didn't count on with H1N1 was, yes, in fact, it was a pandemic because it was widespread. It just wasn't as deadly, thank the Lord, as we expected. But the whole process of pandemic and the transmission from person to person and understanding how you protect your workers, how you protect your staff, how you protect kids from spreading those germs widely, etc. That was just been an interesting process. So when H1N1 hit, it was quite an experience. To the day they declared the WHO declared the pandemic, it was a nutsy situation. I remember at that point, I think I had to charge my phone 5 times that day because I kept on I literally had cauliflower ear. I spent so much time on the phone with colleagues all over the country saying, oh, holy hell, what are we going to do? And
right.
Luckily, we've been doing planning for 7 years at that point, but it's still even though we're prepared, we were fairly prepared, we still had gaps, and there's always a better way of doing things.
Yeah, and I think as a business owner, you never really know how prepared you should be. Things I was just thinking, because you said phone calls, I was thinking, gosh, if there was a disaster here and we couldn't come to work, who would call who, and what would we tell our clients? Like, I haven't worked out any of that communication stuff.
We do that. So that's part of the part of our planning process. We'd set up a call tree. We've set up a system to call your staff, to call your patients, to call your customers, whatever that is, and put out a alternate communication plan of how you're going to communicate to staff and what to say to them and how to staff them. And then also for your customers, put information on your social media, on your website. Our facilities closed. We're now treating patients. If you're happening, we work a lot with healthcare organizations, so that's our go-to. But if you're an organization that you're now going to do what you run your business out of an alternate location, and that's something that we always consider. It's like you have to think ahead of where else could you, and because you've got mod and you're using virtual assistants, you understand the virtualness of of our process. But the point is, you have to think of that's part of the questions that we ask about your recovery strategies. A lot of people like to think that you just have to have everything in place. You don't, but you should think what has to come up within 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 24 hours, 72 hours of your business process, your supply chain, your staff, your facility, your location, and your IT system. So that when we do business continuity planning, that's those kinds of questions that we'll probe to you and have you think about what those things look like.
That's crazy. We have what's cool is we already have a question coming in.
Yay!
Who is the ideal candidate in the business who should own the responsibility for like the process and the drills and like,
right.
As a small business owner or even a medium-sized business, like who owns that?
So that's an excellent question because it's going to live in different places, different type, depending on your size of your organization. Like it might be in someone that's your operations department. That's a good place for it to live because they're already knowing what your business process is. It depends on what your business type is. What you don't want to do is solely focus it on IT because that's the old way of thinking around business continuity. My data is backed up. I can still run my business. Well, your data is one critical piece to your business, but so is your business process, your IT system, your payroll system, and your all those kinds of things. It's also your people that are going to run these things and your actual work location. Are you going to work remotely? Are you going to work from can you work part of your business? And also supply chain's an issue too. So it's going to live in different places, but ideally what you want to do is have it be multidisciplinary. This is the one big hot tip we want to share with you is that you don't want to have it rest on one person's shoulders, number one. If you have 4 or 5 departments and maybe 2, and maybe you're a small business, a team of 5, who does operations? You kind of want to have several people to think about what your Bolter business process is and what kind of plans you should do, et cetera. It's going to live in different places based on your business size, but ideally you want to have it to be someone that represents your IT and your operations and your admin so that you're looking holistically about your business. Because if you only have your IT person lead the effort, ideally it's only going to be an IT focused event and plan, and that's only one critical piece, but not your only piece to your business.
Yeah, makes sense. What's interesting about what you're like talking about is how in depth should all of the employees be? Like I wouldn't know how much time to spend on this. What's reasonable? Would you run meetings?
That's a really good question. So what we like to do is we like to have some kind of safety committee, a small subset of folks that actually help develop the plan. But then once the plan is developed, and really how you operationalize it is you involve the staff and you train the staff on what your procedures are, what your process is, and so that they, have it's like, hey, my employer really cares about whether I know what our shelter-in-place policy is or evacuation policy is, et cetera. What's also important, so you and how you really give them the muscle memory, so it's actually living and breathing, is training and testing. So we test the plan with drills and exercises. And those drills can be a discussion-based exercise that we do all the time, or a full-scale exercise, lights and sirens. You know, again, we work mostly with healthcare organizations, so 50 fake patients with blood and impalements. We can do all those things, but really that you bring it together with that training and testing piece. And then what's more important is it's not you're just doing a drill for the sake of a drill. The whole point is you want to fail spectacularly during a drill, but not during disaster. So you want to fail because you want to fail and find out where your plan gaps are. Oh, well, when we developed the plan, we thought of this, but when we ran through the scenario, we found we needed other resources, or we needed other people, or we forgot something. And then you take those plan findings, write an after action report, which our director of training and exercises, Chris, just loves to do, writes those exercise reports, those after action reports, and actually implement your improvement plan to say, here's the plan gaps are, and then you update the plan based on those findings.
Is this and we're going to cut real quick to talk about your virtual professional, and then we'll continue. But is this a 6-month process? Give somebody an idea of like how long it will take for somebody like me who we don't have a lot of plans. I mean, I think we have fire, and we have fire because it's
fire. Okay.
Yeah, fire because it's required.
For a small organization, I mean, we could probably get start to finish in about 3 months, and that would be with the process that we've used and we've worked successfully is we do a hazard vulnerability analysis to identify what your risks are. We do look at what your existing plans are, and if you have none, that's a little bit easier in some ways because we're kind of starting from scratch. But we have templates that we've created that are proprietary to us, that we're with our clients, and that we kind of have all the key elements that you need to have of, orders of succession and who's in charge and how you activate and who's in all those kinds of things. So we do that. And then we get back and forth on the plan. Then we train you on what the plan elements are. So your staff knows what those things are. You sit with that, and then we do an exercise to test it. And then we update the plan. So it's an iterative process. I would say, 3, maybe 6 months, depending on, other things you have going on. But our goal is to not just give you a piece of paper. It's the planning process that's very valuable, that also helps to give you that muscle memory of, oh yeah, now I remember what we're doing. Except.
I love it. Okay. Real quick, because I get an opportunity where MyOutDesk is 10 years old, 5,000 clients. I get an opportunity to talk to a lot of business owners just like yourself, Nora. And what's cool is I love how you're using your virtual professional, because that's how I started using them. Right. So let's talk a little bit about how you've kind of harnessed, the virtual model to make you more efficient and drive more revenue for your business.
So for us, Jerome, he is really good on our website. He's making sure we're doing a website revamp right now, and saying, hey, by the way, we want to make sure you get, pulling off whether great photos or pulling together our blogs in a better way and reorganizing things. So he's great at that. He's scheduling. I mean, we always want more clients, and we always, the other thing that we always value is channel partners. So whether you're a consultant that does something similar to what we do, or whether it's an IT system, so we're always doing. So he does tons of scheduling for us for our existing clients.
There's one right now.
Yeah, there's one right now, and so, et cetera. So he does a lot of scheduling for us and for our staff, for their clients, which are all over the country. By the way, we've just been blessed that we've done projects in 32 states. And so that's exciting. What I also appreciate about him is that he keeps our staff informed and, running our staff meetings and come on, we got to get together. We've got to get together and work all these projects. So I appreciate that about him.
Awesome. I do want to say what I love is your guy is scheduling. You're keeping track of your calendar, getting you in front of more clients, organizing your day, because what we do is and we help people grow revenue, and then we help save them money. In fact, we're about 60% of the, we're going to save you 60% on staffing. So the way you're using your virtual professional is phenomenal. And I think if you're listening to this call and you're thinking about it, we'd be happy to do a consultation. We're also going to give away Nora's 12-point risk assessment, so that she can kind of guide you through. And if you fill that out and you want to meet with her, she's been gracious enough to give you a 30-minute consultation on top of that. So just jump on our website, sign up, say you want Nora's 12-point assessment, and come talk to us about saving money and growing your company. So 3 to 6 months to build the thing, and then we'll test it. As a business owner, and let's say you're between $1 million and 10 million is kind of the norm for our client base. What would you say the cost should be to create this plan?
It depends if you want both an emergency operations plan and a business continuity plan. But ideally, what we like to do, we also do IT disaster recovery plans too. Basically, the more services you kind of add on, the better rate we can give you. And our goal is to meet your budget as best we can. I would say budget, between 10 to 20,000, depending. And again, that might be we might be refreshing what you currently have, or maybe we'll just do a plan review, or maybe just develop your training and exercise program.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing too. I'd say that the issue is it's a good investment in making sure that you know what to do. The whole point of these plans is not just to give you a plan, but so you know who to call, what to say, what steps to take, what moving forward, what the recovery looks like. That's what you get out of the process. And oftentimes your insurance company might give you some kind of discount if you have a business continuity plan in place, or a plan, if you have a robust system. And one other tip that I'd also offer is look for your staff that either, has a bent for preparedness. Maybe they're a Girl Scout leader. Maybe they are ex-EMS, or they were in the military. They kind of have and help them to develop your culture of preparedness.
That's cool.
Add them to your safety team.
I love that. Okay, so if, first of all, like I said in the beginning, 40% of businesses fail when there's a disaster. So in my world, 10,000 to 20 is fine, especially if it's going to take that number to zero if a disaster hits us, and we just won't fail. That for me feels good. Your 12-point assessment, if I'm listening right now and I want to just kind of, go through that and really kind of design what are the main disasters to worry about as an entrepreneur, and what is the thinking associated with those disasters?
Sure. The 12-point assessment really gets you to ask you and your team, and it might be your team of 5 or 50. I don't know what that number looks like, but get you to think about, it's based on, our 12-point assessment is based on industry best practices.
Right.
When you have robust plans, have you thought about orders of succession? Have you ever thought of who's going to be in charge? Have you thought about putting together a business continuity plan to identify your alternate business process? Do you have some kind of, have you had past experience with disasters? How did that impact your business? What steps have you taken moving forward? It's a more of a, for you to assess for yourself. What we encourage you to do is give us a call. Send, schedules, Jerome will be happy to send you a meeting request. Reach out to us, because we want to ensure that we want to make sure you know what to do. Because here's moving forward, we're going to continue to have more severe weather events, regardless of where you are in the world. We're going to continue to have more severe weather events. It's just going to get worse. At this point, it's about resiliency. We want to make your organization as resilient as possible. And by thinking this in advance, no one wants to think, this is not dead sexy, okay? I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
But look for things, but it will make your organization more resilient, and more importantly, make your business be able to not be in that 40% category. it does fail when disaster strikes. And again, disaster doesn't have to be, a presidential declared disaster. It could be your water main building. I mean, I had a really small story of a business that they lost their supply chain. They're a restaurant, and a pot pie restaurant in Placerville. That it was one of my favorite ones. We went to, my family went there all the time, and they lost their supplier, and they couldn't find an alternate supplier, so they went out of business. So
I will go, because we're in Sacramento, California, and I would go to Tahoe, and that pot pie place.
I know. Z pies.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite places.
Ours too. My kid would only go camping past the Z Pie place because he knew he's going to go to Z Pie. Well, they're closed because they lost their supply chain. They couldn't find a supplier for one of their key ingredients for their pot pies, and they're gone now. So,
geez, what are some of? I mean, we talked briefly, and you explained that 90% of disasters are water based.
That's right.
Let's go through the top 5 disasters and talk about
it. It could be related to a storm surge related to a hurricane. It could be related to a storm surge related to a tornado. It could be related to a tsunami. It could just be related to historic floods like we saw last summer in hurricane, with the hurricanes. So no one ever predicted 67 inches of rain, but that's what we had. And moving forward, again, we can't count on historical modeling to tell us what the future might bring. So that's what it's all about. But so 90% of and those floods are horrific, and they do more damage than you'd ever think, because it's not just the flood itself. So let's say you clear out your building and you take all the water out. Well, you're probably left with mold. So then there's all those environmental issues you have to deal with, and getting back in a building after there's been a flood, is quite a tough one. And Sacramento, where we are, obviously there's other places around the world, but we have the highest flood risk in the nation, and so it's not going to take much in order to bring historic floods to Sacramento. We have the exact same levee design, and they do in many communities around the world and around the country. So the point is, moving forward, just knowing what your risks are,
right,
and having a process that we can walk through with you, which doesn't take take a lot of time. It maybe takes an hour to walk through what the risks are, and the risks can be everything from a cyber breach to a flood to a water main break, and what that means and how that might impact your business.
So Russia could break into my computers, and if I spend time with you, you're going to stop them.
We'll do our best.
Yeah, I love it.
We're down to.
I love it. Okay, so other than water, what are the next 2 and 3? I mean, if you're in California, like we are.
Earthquake. Our earthquake risk it's off the charts. But the issue with earthquake is that we've seen so many communities that have done fracking. Believe it or not, the risk of the earthquake risk in Oklahoma and other places where they do a lot of fracking is almost the same risk as California due to the fracking. So that's earthquake is a huge one. I mean, we used to say, there's a joke about California. Sure, we have 4 seasons: flood, fire, flu, and earthquake. Those are.
That's funny. Flood, fire, flu, and earthquake. I love it.
Well, the other thing too is, I'm sorry to say, active shooter. I mean, this is not. Yeah. This is, it's gone are the days that this is, it was, oh my God, that never happened. There's been over 300, I think close to 300 shootings already this year that are, and it's a matter of that situation we don't want to see. So that's something that we do too. We have our director of training and exercises that is a master exercise practitioner. We do active training. We've done active shooter drills with clients during their work hours, and worked with law enforcement to bring them in, to teach them the run, hide, fight skills, and to teach them how to do that. Ransomware is cyber breach is a really high threat for many. And it used to be just for large companies. You see small organizations now being impacted by ransomware, or a data breach that really can impact. And cripple your ability to be able to use your IT and
Yeah.
systems.
That active shooter thing, it's even impacted me a little bit. Real quick though, James has already requested the 12-point risk assessment.
Great. Happy to give it to you.
Yeah, we'll get that to you, James. I'm a wrestling coach at a local high school, and this year, we've seen some of Nora's work just this year because all the gates are closed until the bell rings. And then the moment the bell rings and school's out, they open the gate, but they only open it for 10 minutes. So there's like a 10-minute window for me to get into the school after school's over. And otherwise I have to go around and use my key to get in. And I think that's the reality of today's world. Schools, large office complex, we're in a different space than we've ever been in. Like when I was a kid, getting into a fight was kind of the normal, now it's like a whole new world,
It is. We just did also a workplace violence policy webinar. If anyone would like to know, we'd be happy to send you the recording of that. We did it with a local HR consulting firm, and what we're talking about is, as a manager, what are good things to know and how to develop a good, solid workplace violence policy. So we'd be happy to send you that recording.
Yeah, we'll grab that. That'd be amazing. Okay, guys. So a lot of stuff's going on here. I want to kind of circle us up. We're almost done. I'd like to keep us, to 30 minutes or so. So we're going to get you Nora's 12-point assessment for sure. Jump on MyOutDesk.com, ask for a consultation, and we can get you the video. We can get you her contact information, everything you need to basically move your business forward and be prepared for disaster. And if you need help, that's what we do. We help people with leverage. We've got a question from Facebook. How does MOD manage its offshore employee disaster plan? Well, here's an interesting thing about our biggest risk over there is typhoons. It's Southeast Asia. Every year we have them. So we have two things. We have a backup internet plan. So everybody has their primary and then everybody has a secondary. We also have a secondary location. So if one area is flooded, I have pictures, this sinks to our heart of who we are and what we do, because every year we deal with disaster multiple times. But we have this photo, it's a great photo of one of our virtual professionals who works for a dear friend of mine and a client. She is on her roof with her laptop and a bag, her kid, and her entire building is flooded. And she's on like the 3rd story or something like this. So we have massive plans in the Philippines about how to protect not only your virtual professional and their family, but also be able to come back to work when the water's gone down. But this is just a reality of our business because we're in Asia.
Right. And that actually happened during the monsoon about a month ago with our virtual professional. He has an alternate. He just used his phone. He tethered his phone in order for us to connect. And we stayed in touch. And, we made sure that he was okay related to the floods and where he was, so that we obviously make sure that he's okay. And we communicated in that way.
Well, Nora, thank you for your time. This has been phenomenal, guys. Reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. And thanks for helping us think differently.
We're hoping, it's just a matter, this is I'm sorry to say, a brave new world, and anything we can do to support you, we're happy to do it.
All right, Nora, thanks so much for your time. Thanks guys for coming.
Bye.
Bye-bye.